So let me show you what I mean by measuring for the heel and making sure we worked the main body of our sock long enough before we start the heel. So when I do short row heels, you know, a lot of people break them up into thirds, but for me and the ease of measurement, I work the heel until it's the same number of stitches as we started with in the toe. So in these, I started with 12 stitches and worked increase every other row until we got to here, right? And the main width of the sock. And doing that, it doesn't matter how many stitches are worked in total. We're just concentrated on leaving that 12. So when I knit the heel, it's going to measure the same as the toe since we're leaving the same number of stitches. So when we measure, we start from a flattened sock, the toe up to the increased stitches, straight on, and we get 1.5 inches. So when we work the heel, it's going to be 1.5 inches. With your foot measurement, you can either measure from your middle of your big toe to the middle of your heel to get your full length foot measurement, or make a cardboard cutout, 1.5 inches. You can see that, okay. So when we do the heel, trying to stay in frame here, I measure up 1.5 inches. So that gives me this line here, or a total sock length of 8.25. So from the toe all the way up. So you're going for 8.25 or a little bit further. Here I went a little bit further. To work the heel of the sock, you're going to do one more pass on the front, and then we'll start on the heel of, you're working 2 socks at the same time. So this is sock A, sock B. So you want to start the back of sock B, and we'll work that. And then you'll work sock A the same way. And then we'll get back into the rounds. So here we are at the beginning of the bottom of sock B. And we're going to work a short row heel. And this is going to include some wrap stitches. And remember, it doesn't really matter how many stitches you have, but we're going to work until you're down to the number of stitches you started with at the toe. In my case, it was 12 stitches. And I have 2 stitch markers hanging out there because we will be needing them for when we get to that starting number of stitches. Now we're going to work all the way to the end. This is our first row of our heel. So work in knit stitch. And what we are going to do is do wrapped stitches. And we're doing short rows, so we will be flipping our work. Okay, second to the last stitch, To keep him friends with everything else, you're going to wrap this yarn around him. So we're going to pass it over. Yarn through, pick the stitch back up, flip over the work, brings our yarn to the front for doing purl stitches, and then we are going to start doing the purl stitch. You see, oh, yeah, okay. Just keep my fingers out of the way. And we're going to work this until we get to the second last stitch from the end. Try to keep good even tension. Okay, second to the last stitch. So there it is. Last one on the needle. For this one, since we want the yarn back on the back side, because we're going to be knitting, we need to get the yarn to the front, slip the stitch, pull the yarn to the back, slip the stitch back to the left needle, spin the whole lot around. Being careful not to get your yarn caught up. All back around. The yarn wrapped around that last stitch, and in the back of our work, we start knitting again. So Make sure your stitches are always open and not twisted. So I'm inserting to the center and pulling it through. There you go. So we have one stitch wrapped on each end. Working our knitting all the way back over. So while I'm knitting this, why don't you pop down in the comments and let me know what type of socks you like knitting. What heels do you normally do? Have you knit a sock yet? Now it is one of the easiest fitted garments to make because they're not too big. Only takes about 100 grams of yarn to make them. So if you haven't knit a sock yet, good first project. You don't have to use homespun. And as I talked about in the previous video where we work the toe and the foot, you can see that video, I linked it down below. I went over what yarns were appropriate for socks. So we're gonna work till we get to the stitch before the wrapped stitch. All right. Okay, so here's the wrap stitch. Here's the stitch before the wrap stitch. And remember reading it forward, passing the loop, backwards to get it onto the purl side, and then passing that loop back over to our left-hand needle, flipping the whole work. So we've got that other sock hanging out there. If this is too much of a bother with the other sock, you can always put it up on some waste yarn. So now that this stitch is wrapped, see this yarn coming through the center between these two stitches? Yeah, so now it's on the back. Push our stitches back together and start purling our way through. So that's stitch 3. And wrapping the stitches holds them together so you don't get gapping. There's other ways to do that. There's one where you kind of pick up and knit the stitch previous from the previous row. That's a way to do it. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to do short row heels that don't involve gapping. Working through till we have one before the wrap stitch. So here we are, one before the wrap stitch. See those two? So, and we want the yarn to get to the back. So you put the yarn in the front, move the stitch, the yarn between the needles I say, come here needle, between the needles to the back of the work, and it goes this way. That stitch goes back over, remains unworked, flip it all around, and you do the hokey pokey and you turn your socks around. Right, that's what short rows are all about. And we continue knitting. Do you see how these work out the same length as the toe? Because you're only doing one decrease per row. So we did 2 increases every other row. So they work out to the equivalent number of rows. To set your socks down, it's a good idea to make a note of where you left off, or maybe pop a stitch marker in to where you left off. There we are, one before the third, and you see it's not wrapped. But we're going to change that. Move the arm from the back to the front, from the front to the back between the needles. Put the stitch back over on the left needle. Do the hokey pokey and turn your socks around. If you're watching from a different country, do you know what the hokey pokey is, or is that just a weird American thing? Have not researched it, don't know where we got it from. Anyway, start purling on stitch 4 here. You don't have to hold them, do anything special with your tension, just try to keep it even. I hope everyone here knows how to do purl stitches. And I don't have any how-to knit videos really up. Did some how-to crochet videos like way back when I first started. They're really horrible, so if you just want to watch them and laugh, go for it. I really didn't know what I was doing. And literally my first 2 videos. That one's wrapped. Can you see that one's wrapped, that one's wrapped? See this weird little line that goes in the front? But the third one is not. It's in the back. We need to move it to the front of the work. Move the stitch over, between, and back. It's kind of a mantra. Flip it back around, and we know we just did 3. So here, we're gonna stitch 2 right in front of the 4th stitch on the other side. Now these being 100% wool and wool felt. So to wash these, it's pretty much just a light detergent soak. To wash, maybe rub out if you have a spot on it or something. And a couple rinses. Again, as a soak, not as running water. So basically how you wash your raw wool and how you wash your socks are pretty similar, other than you don't have to go to those high temperatures because you're not washing anything really out of them that needs the hot temperatures to break down. So 5th stitch. And then we're going to wrap the 4th stitch. Yarn comes from the back to the front. Move the stitch around from the front to the back. Move the stitch over. Flip the whole work over. And then I'll catch you back when I get to the other side. Alrighty, I am back. No more stomach grumbling, so we're all awesome over here. And I'm just working the last couple stitches until I get to that wrap over. Remember, we were on number 4 that we needed to wrap, right? That's just a basic bubble, okay. So our yarn's on the back of the work, so it needs to go to the front of the work. Move the stitch over, move the yarn back. And there we are. Rotate everything around. Now, if you're working one sock at a time, this will be faster because you don't have to drag that other sock with you. I do love working 2 socks at once. It is something I do prefer. I don't think I've worked a single sock in many years since I figured out I could do this. And then we're going to put a loop around stitch number 5. I'll have to watch me knit all through this. I'll probably zoom through these ones. Right. Forward, slip to the back of the work, slip back, rotate. So we're just gonna purl all the way back across right now. Okay, on to stitch 5, 5 in there. So yarn goes back. Loop goes over, yarn goes forward, loop goes back. Okay, we did stitch 5, so we currently have 10 stitches all bound up. Now if you're doing a smaller sock, you want to make sure you count the stitches in the middle. So maybe you started like 6 or 8 stitches, so you need to make sure you count the ones in the middle when you get closer, so you know where to stop. So 10's bound up, 10 and 12 is 22. I had way more than that. Yep, it was wrapped. Okay, so we're wrapping number 6. The yarn is in the back, so you bring it to the front, you bring the loop over, and you bring the yarn to the back. It's like a mantra. Might be easier knitting on a table. I only do it when I'm filming, but it's kind of easier because I'm resting my arms, so I don't move them under the camera too much. So 2, 4, and we'll wrap number 6. So yarn goes to the front of the work, back to the back of the work, back over. Keep doing this until we have our starting number. So in my case, that is 12. Yours might be something else. Remember to pause and count every once in a while, like 1, 2, 3. When I knit, it doesn't unspin the yarn, but when I purl, it untwists the yarn. Close up, and I'll show you what this is actually doing, because it is starting to change shape. All right, so right by the last one. And if you can see, lay it down. This is actually, stitches are pulling off at this angle. So you can see it's kind of pulling off this way, and it's starting to become that triangle. So you got the angle here, straight stitches here. So it is pulling off in that triangle. And you can, and it's starting to cup a little bit. I can get my finger in there and we can cup it out. So as it forms this little cup for your heel, and the stitches are gonna look a little sideways. But right now, forward, slip, backward, slip. Why is that always easier to do on the knit side? And I'm just gonna speed through these regular purl stitches. Okay, so let's take a real good look at this next wrap. I got this in just a little bit closer for you. 6, wrap number, that's wrap, that's not, okay. So 3, 6, we haven't wrapped 7 yet. So let's purl number 8 and wrap number 7. Forward and through. All right, let's start this next row. And we're gonna knit all the way across. Hit that like button and subscribe and smash that notification bell so you can catch all the new videos. I do read all my comments and try to respond to most of them. So leave your comments below. And if you have any video ideas, maybe you're looking for something you can't find, I have a list started of videos for the future, and a lot of those are viewers' requests. So add to it. If I already have it on my list, I can bump it up to the top if I have more people that are interested. That one's wrapped. This one's getting wrapped. Okay. Oh, it's tight. Okay. Forward. Slip the stitch. Backwards. Slip the stitch. Oh, we're building it up. Purl. Purl, come on fingers, you can do it. Okay. And I'll speed this section up. 3, 6, there's number 7 that needs to be wrapped. You know the routine by now, right? Backwards, forwards, or forwards, backwards, right? 1, 2. Yeah, there's still a lot of stitches for me left. See, there's a bar across that one sideways, so we know that one was wrapped. So we need this one. This one needs to be wrapped. Okay. And that's 3, 6. This is number 9. You know, that's 9, so we need to go grab the 9th one off the other side. And it's starting to cup out. You see, it's starting to, your heel's starting to cup out. It's really cool when you start feeling it happening. All right, we're going after stitch number 9. 3, 6. There's stitch 9. Yarn back, yarn forward, stitch back across, flip. You can see the pucker. That heel is forming. So it's really fun when you actually get to get in here and shape the heel. You can learn what shapes work best for your heel. Here we're looking for stitch number 10 to wrap. 3, 6, 9. Oh, I stopped at the right spot. Oh. Yep, it's on the camera. Cool. That'll be it. And then we're gonna go do number 10 on this side. All right, so up to the right time again. Wrap and back And here we're definitely going to start counting because we know we have 10 on each side. That's 20 stitches. So if you did the standard 32, it'd be 64 all the way around. Just a number that's used a lot for making ladies socks. A couple more stitches for men. I can do 72 all the way around for my husband. But anyway, if you have 10 on each side and you're doing fingering weight yarn or sock weight yarn, same thing, it's good to count. So 1, 2, 3, 2. So there's 14. Perfect. And wrap the last one. So this will be the last set that I'm wrapping. Because like I said, we're just making 2 basically triangles. That's why I love doing socks this way, because you can vary the size so easily. And actually, once the sock is like the next step after we're done with the heel, I'll teach you some variations on that cuff. All right. Now here is where those stitch markers come in handy. So we're going to slide that stitch off. Put this one on. Just a little homemade stitch marker. I'll teach you how to do these a little later. But they use jump rings. So they just slide right on and off, and you can make them to suit whatever you're knitting. Okay, to light bulb style with this cute little guy at the end. All right, so there's that. So those are our 12 stitches that are going to remain knit throughout. They don't increase, they don't decrease. So on this next, and I believe in fish kip they call it a boomerang. So we're basically gonna go all the way over, all the way back, and then we'll come back here and start increasing to make the other half of our heel. It gets a little tricky. So we're gonna knit through this next stitch and the loop that we made, or that little, right there, see on that knitting needle? We're gonna knit through both of those. So I go underneath, let's pull them both up. You see both of them are on the needle? I'll go down a little bit. Okay, then through the back, loop around and through. We're gonna be doing this a lot. We're gonna do this a whole row. So the needle goes under, back through. Then we can go through and knit the stitches together. But it's one stitch. But doing this fluffs it up. And fluffs them up so they work together, so it's thicker and you don't have holes. Grab it off to that. My needle keeps slipping. Oh, there it is. You can still see that. I dropped you in so close. It's hard for me to actually see it. Oops. back over. And there's a special little thing we do down here to keep us from having a gap on this last stitch. We are going to wrap it again, so we'll go back. Yes, we're going to wrap it twice. So when we pick it up for our very last row, we'll sort it. It'll be really, really fluffy because we'll have 2 stitches around it. There you go. Back you back out a little bit. Good. Everyone can see. Okay. So we wrap that last stitch again. It is currently on my right needle. Let's just pull that baby off. Then I'm just going to regularly purl. I'm going to put a little bit of tension behind the stitch. There we go. Because you can a little bit of void things going on. Oh, I'm not in. Okay. And we're getting up to the stitch marker, and we are just going to move it on over. Flip them around. And continue knitting. That's our base 12, whatever base number you have. Do love a good pair of hand knit socks. Something really amazing about hand knit socks. And I have a couple pairs that I hand knit had spun. If you're just catching this video and skip the first one, go back and look. There's a couple pairs of hand knit socks I show you in that one. Hand spun, hand knit. Yeah, just pass that guy on over. Okay, we're back. Right to the purl side of our looped over stitches or our wrap stitches, and we're going to do the same thing. Pick them both up and purl them. So I move one stitch over so I can pick up the one behind it, or pick up the wrap from behind it. Move them over. Pick up the loop behind it. Back in and move them over. Up, back, squish it. Knit it. This one's loose. That was really loose. Why did I do it so loose? Anyway. Tighten it down a little bit by knitting it. Okay. You have to be very careful because if you pull, it will go into the fabric. There it goes. I got it. Okay, and back in and knit it. That's really loose. That's bugging me. I really don't want to go back the 4 rows to get it done. It'll fix, well. I was going to say when I block it, it should pull in a little bit. We're a long way from blocking these socks. Right now we're just finished knitting these heels. Once you do a few pair of socks, they do speed up. Well, anything you do more than once, it speeds up. First time you do everything, the first time you do just about anything, it's hard. But as you do them, it gets easier and easier. And that's why we keep trying new things. That's why I try a lot of things. You know, and then you figure out that, yep, you love everything fiber arts, and you start a YouTube channel. It's just that amazing. Okay, and here I'm going to wrap this stitch, so back to the front, front to the back. Okay. So we have a stitch on each side that's double wrapped. Tight enough. If you look at the stitches though, you can see that they have this little cross hatch. And on both sides. From picking up those wrap stitches. And now we worked all the way from one side to the other. So this is the first row where we actually start working our second triangle. So we have part of the heel here. So you see it's already puckering around, right? So we'll keep it going so it goes all the way around. So for the first row, you basically start your wrap stitches from the outside working in. From the second half, you'll start your wrap stitches from the inside working out. So we are actually going to do our first wrap stitch on the other side of this little foxy loxy. What do you do when you watch my videos? Do you try to do this thing with me? Or are you just like, that's interesting, I'll just watch it while I brush my teeth? Because that's okay too. All right, and this is the 12th stitch of that row. Okay, so we're gonna go around here. And we are going to wrap this stitch. And around. I'll be right back. I have to do some yarn management. Okay. Back and ready for action. Okay, stitch wrapped. Stitch knitted, or purled. We're purling here, folks. All right, let's wrap this one back and forward. Okay. These for myself. I don't have the stitch markers on here. I thought for you would be easier. So I worked that first one. So the first stitch is wrapped on each side. So I am going to take that off. Okay. So you can see where this wrap stitch is. So we're going to work the wrap stitch and then wrap the next stitch. Because you're working your way back out. In order to work the next stitch, you have to work this one. So we're going to knit him and wrap the next one. I'll knit you next time. Okay. Roll it. Gets a little tight. I'll be fine. All right. I'm gonna pull this little guy off. Say thank you. See you later. We're gonna purl this off and wrap the next one. And knit. And if you guessed knitting till the next wrap stitch, yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. And each row that heel pops out more and more. And this is the wrap stitch we're doing now. So there's the wrap. Now they're both on that needle. Then we're going to just knit them off. And wrap the next stitch. I'm always flipping it the same way. Okay, and we're going to purl the rest of this row and wrap the next stitch. So I'm going to take a little pause here. And I'll be back when I'm at the end of this row. All right, so this is the stitch before the wrap loop. And there's the wrap. Under it, through the main hook, back through and purl it. Wrap the next one. And that just smooshes that stitch right up to the other ones. All right, and that little heel's poking right out. Love it. You can feel it forming as we do this contouring. Knit the next one. Got the wrap stitch there. Knit those as one and forward. Where am I going? And we're going to keep working in this manner, knitting the wrap loop as one, wrapping the next until we get to the beginning double wrap loop. See you then. I believe this is the second to last row before we start going all the way around. So here we go. So I am knitting. It's the knit row. This is the stitch on the very end that has the 2 wraps on it. This stitch currently has 1 wrap on it. So we're knitting up to, this one has the 1 wrap on it. Pull the wrap, knit through both. And this one has double wrap on it. But if we look on this end, we still have a wrap on this one, second to the end here, and the double wrap on that one. So I need to go all the way back, capture this one second to the end, and wrap that one again, then go all the way back, and that'll be our last row. So this one, I need to wrap this last stitch. I know it's going to get wrapped 3 times. 2 times? 3 times. Wrap it again. So I'm wrapping this last stitch again. And it's just going to be really poofy and fluffy and fill in that hole when we get there. So going back to purling all the way across. I'll speed this part up. Okay, again to the end of the purl row. Knit all the knit stitches. Okay, this is that last wrap stitch. You see the wrap? See the wrap really good, huh? Yeah, it's awesome. So forward, got that wrap, through, back through, wrap, knit, purl that. Why did I not purl that? There it goes. Purl, back. There's so many in there. Okay, anyway, it's fine. All the way to the end. It's good. Okay. Now this row is very special. This is the last real row of the heel. We're just going to knit all the way across, making sure to catch all the wraps of that last part of the heel. And I know we have a wrap loop here. We're going to have to catch that when we go all the way back around. So after we knit the front part of the sock here and come around on the next full round row, we'll catch this. Not a big deal. So right now we'll just knit all the way across, which is right here. 1, 2, this is that weird wrap stitch. It's that guy. Oh boy. And there's 1, 2, 3. It's gonna be a little insane. But just gonna dive into it. Get right into a little, there it goes. Free and clear. And see it's all poofy? See all the lines there? That'll be great. But we're doing 2 socks at once, which means a whole another sock to put a heel on. So it has a beautiful heel. Let's pull you out here. Okay, so this one has this beautiful heel now. That's what we just did. This heel in your sock. So now you put your little, you put your real foot in it, or you can put your cardboard foot in it. And watch this. Poof, right over. Lines up perfectly. See these long lines from our wrap stitches. Top and bottom. Yeah, lines up perfectly. Bottom of the foot. Wonderful. Love it. So we're just going to finish the heel on this one, and I'll join you back when we start doing a few loops all the way around. We finished this heel, and I kept working around, and I finished this heel just so I would be all the way back to where we left off here. So this is the last stitch we took together. Right there. And now you're just going to continue working in your stockinette stitch. So just keep on knitting. Here in this stitch, there is going to be a little bit of a gap, so you're just going to have to pull. Just give it a little bit of a tug. Not a big one, just a little bit of one. There you go. Then front knitting. And around stitch 3, 4, you can start loosening up a little bit. Oops. We'll have to keep minding this. I should have put a little bit more twist in the yarn. It's all good. Some places are way better than others, so just keep knitting around the top. Now, if you're doing a pattern, continue with whatever pattern you're doing, that's for dang sure. But when you get to the back, make sure you give yourself an extra inch past this point, knitting up without the pattern, just because you want it to go all the way over your heel. All right, we get all the way to the other end. Okay. Put it on over. Yarn management. Back together. Okay, it's all back here. You got your little heels. They're so cute. Okay. Now if you look, they're the same size as your toes. Look, same size as the toes. Boom, boom. Amazing how that happens. It's my favorite part about this process. All right, now this one has those wrap loops on there. There's a couple of them going. And we need to work those off together. So we normally knit it like this. So we need to get all these stitches up. Oh, there's 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, as a knit stitch, was all worked before as purl stitch. Don't want to lose my top loop. Just put my nail there. Okay, I worked it all the way through. This new one just work all the way through as well. That's all 4 of them, and then we're just going to knit it through, just like that. And they're just going to fluff up. You just need to put a little on the tight side. It all fluffs up and looks good. That's like the hardest part of the whole thing. And then we're back. Got more stitches. Back to knitting regular. Well, some of these are going to feel a little tight, and we're just going to loosen them all back up. Get back with our normal bit of tension. Okay. And this starts us onto the leg of the sock. You measure from the base of the heel. So you measure from here up. And you want the finished sock to be 6 inches. So subtract 1.5 to 2 inches for your cuff, the ribbed cuff. Now if your stitches look a little wobbly, like some in here look a little wobbly, when you block them, a lot of that comes out. Now if you twisted any stitches, that's just character. But a lot of it comes out with blocking. So next video we'll finish up the legs. So work until you're ready to do the ribbing. So just keep knitting around until you're ready to do the ribbing. So like I said, 1.5 inches short of whatever you want your sock finished at. So next video we'll do the ribbing, and then we'll do the washing and blocking of the sock, and I'll show you how to do it on sock blockers, which is totally easy, or how to pin them out, which is a little bit more complicated, but still really easy enough to do. And I'll walk you through both of those, and you'll have, after those dry, a pair of socks you can wear. So totally awesome. So just keep on knitting, continue working in the round. I'm really liking the way these are looking. And that heel looks pretty comfy. So I will see you next time when I have this worked up to my 4.5 inches, and you have yours worked up to however high you want your sock to go. Until next time.